Hello, everybody. It's good to see everybody here today. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to introduce Debbie Scott, who is the district governor nominee elect. It's getting closer. She's from the Jonesboro Club, and I found out today that she's an RLI trainer. So if you own RLI, you will get to know her better before she's actually the district governor for next year. But I'll tell you, our district governor this year, this has got to be the easiest introduction in the world. I present to you your fellow Rotarian, Chris Justice.
Thank you, guys. And Kim, I appreciate you prompting everybody to stand, but I haven't said anything yet, so let's don't raise the bar for me too high. If I say something you like, you can stand up at the end. But I hate hearing my own bio. If you guys want to read about it, it's on the website. I'm happy for you to go read it there, but I didn't want to waste any of the club's time on that. I want to say thank you to Kim. Kim's not only a great Rotarian here in your club, she's also the assistant governor for this area. Very grateful for her service in that regard. So thank you, Kim. And also, I know she's been introduced already, but can't say enough good things about Debbie. It's been so gratifying working with her. We have a great team in the district governor chain. I'm kind of in the middle in Greensboro. She's down south in Jonesboro, and Van Lankford is going to follow her. He's from the Mount Airy Club. And like we told your board this morning, we really want to get somebody in line from, the western area, Wayne. We want to get some applications from, from this area. So you guys might want to consider that, when we solicit applications in the fall. It's great to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for the warm reception. I did get to meet with the board, and I already knew a lot about your club, just from talking to folks and doing my own research. You guys are an exemplary club. You really are the model for what a small town Rotary club should look like. So you can give yourselves a lot of credit for that. We love the example that you set, and the only thing I got to get you to do is brag about yourself a little bit more. So we want to hear more about you around the district, because it's not about patting yourselves on the back. It's all about being a good example for other small communities, because you guys do such a good job here. So I've got a couple of prospective members and maybe a soon-to-be new member in the audience. And really my comments today are directed to you guys more than anybody else. But at the same time, for the more seasoned Rotarians, I hope what I have to say resonates with you guys and maybe invigorates you, a little bit as you consider the value proposition of being in Rotary and asking people to join you. Which brings me to my first point. Why did I join Rotary? And the simple answer is somebody asked me. That's it. I mean, it's really that simple. Somebody asked me. My good friend Bobby Christensen, who you guys will find this to be a cool little fact. Believe it or not, in Greensboro, we have the largest dog show management company in the country. It is called MBF, and my buddy Bobby is the CEO of that company. And when I say the biggest dog show management company, they do Westminster. And, it's not some company in New York that does it. Bobby's company from right down on Eugene Street in Greensboro does Westminster, the one you see on TV every year. They do thousands of other dog shows all around the country. He's a longtime running buddy of mine, and one day on a run, he asked me if I wanted to go to a Rotary meeting with him. And at the time, I was in B&I, which is a very strict business networking group. It was exactly what I needed whenever I was starting my first business. And, it was great, but I had gotten to the point in my business that, I wanted to get back a little bit. And so it was perfect for me. And I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll show up. Well, what I found out later is that I was actually a Gold Club requirement for Bobby that year. And for any of you guys that have been in leadership, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Gold Club is really sort of the measuring stick for clubs. you know, in our district, and there are achievements that you have to check off, and you know, he was able to check off an under 40 new member that year. So yeah, you know, I didn't know that at the time. He didn't exactly tell me that. That's what I was. It was a Gold Club requirement. But you know, after I joined, I think my experience was very similar to, you know, a lot of our experiences when we join anything. You got to kind of ease into it, right? I mean, it was an established club, long history. And, you know, I went to the meetings. I did bare minimum for the fundraiser. I got involved in a few of the service projects. You know, I helped out with Habitat for Humanity, and I did, you know, I rang the bell every year. Captain, hopefully you'll appreciate that. Had the whole family out there ringing the bell. You know, but I wasn't really fully engaged. But what I was doing at the time was watching what was going on around me and really taking in what everybody else was doing. And you guys, I think, will identify with this because of all the great work you do. What I was seeing was amazing. And I want to tell you guys about a couple of things that I watched. You know, a Rotarian named Rob Midget and his wife, they raised over $100,000 and they built and basically put all the equipment in a clinic in Haiti. Another member, Jack, also in, you know, my previous club, he worked with a Haitian orphanage and really helped them recover from a number of natural disasters. Max Kern, who is, some of you may know, longtime contractor in the Greensboro area. Max, a bit of an engineer as well, he recognized that there was a major problem with how stoves were constructed in the homes in the rural areas of Guatemala. And so what he did was he developed a clean burning and very efficient stove, because if you went into these folks' houses, what you would see is a ton of soot on the wall, the air quality was horrible, and they were really inefficient, which contributed to deforestation in those areas. And so they're now able to burn a fraction of the wood that they would have otherwise in clean air. And he would take a group of Rotarians and missionaries every year to do that. Another Rotarian who's a really good friend of mine, who I met through Rotary, Dan Quinn, him and his wife, Judy, they adopted a little girl from Vietnam. And the really interesting thing about this story is that Katie, their daughter, is not an orphan. From the area that Katie was born, girls aren't valued a lot. And they don't get education past the 6th grade, typically speaking, unless the family's wealthy. To Katie's biological parents' credit, they recognized that she had a spark. And so they knew that they had to give her a better opportunity. So they put her up for adoption. And my friend Dan and his wife Judy adopted her. They got her back to the United States. And as soon as Katie learned English, she started showing an amazing aptitude. She was an all-star kid. You guys know the American Girl line of toys, right? Anybody that's got a little girl knows what I'm talking about. It's been around for years. Katie was actually a model for the American Girl catalog. So she was able to make a little bit of money. Well, she makes this money and, you know, she starts asking questions about her origin. And, you know, Dan and Judy were very upfront with her. And so she became really curious as to what, you know, what she could do to give back, because she knew that the other kids in her area were underprivileged. And so Dan and Judy are really secure, and they didn't view this as a threat at all. They said, yes, by all means. And so that spurred Dan to get involved in something called Children of Vietnam. Children of Vietnam has a ton of initiatives, you know, in Vietnam, especially the rural areas. But the one that Dan really grabbed onto that is really amazing. It's very similar to what Oprah did in Africa. So you guys are probably familiar with the story where Oprah started a school for underprivileged kids in Africa and really followed the classes all the way up. Well, Dan did the same thing with a group of young girls in Vietnam. He got them right at the point where they were done with their compulsory education, and at that point their educations would have stopped. Well, he essentially adopted a class of 24 young women. And he, through his work with children in Vietnam, helped fund their education, and he followed them all the way up. And as we stand today, 24 of the 24 graduated from high school. 23 of the 24 have graduated or are graduating from college. The only one that didn't go to college because she got married and she started her family. That's a huge game changer for those young women. A lot of the funding for that came from Pig Stock, which is a family of Rotary event that we hold here in the district every year. So that is Rotarians making a huge impact. So what that did for me in terms of watching all of this great work is it gave me a ton of confidence to know that I could address really big problems. And I was reminded today of something that I don't often lead with this in this story, because I really, even to this day, I have a hard time getting the words out without getting choked up. And poor Debbie's had to listen to my prepared comments a number of times, and so I don't share this in my general talk, but I'm going to share it with you guys. My oldest son has autism, and he's high functioning, comes with a lot of challenges. Well, especially early on in his education, there were an enormous amount of challenges. Well, I was convinced as a young parent that the best way to handle this was to mainstream my son, and for him to, basically through osmosis, become normal. One night, when I was putting him to bed, I guess when he's in his room and his brain's not being scrambled by all this input, there were always moments of extreme clarity for him, and it was when he communicated the best. And one night he says to me, it's tough to get out, he says, "Daddy, why don't I ever have sleepovers?" I have 5 children, 4 are typically developing, 2 of which are extremely social. We always have kids at our house. Always have, kids sleeping over. Parents are always supposed to have an answer for their children. And I looked at him and I said, "Buddy, I don't know, but I've got to get you an answer for that." So I started researching and figuring out, what can I do to make this better for my son? At the same time, I knew that the wheels were about to fall off with his education. And none of what I'm about to say is to disparage the public school system. Like I said, I have 5 kids, 4 of which have gone through the public schools or are in public schools and have gotten great educations. For children with autism, the public school system doesn't necessarily work. There is a limited amount of talent in terms of being able to educate those kids, because it takes a very particular skill set that requires a ton of training, and it also takes a measure of intangibles that you're just lucky if you find. So I knew that the struggles were going to get worse. So based on everything I had seen, I knew that I could make a difference. So I got with a couple of other like-minded parents, and we started a school for kids with autism. 7 years ago, we opened Lionheart Academy of the Triad in Greensboro, and we opened the doors to 19 students, 2 classrooms, 4 teachers at the time. And we opened it as a school within a school with a private school called a Catholic school, Our Lady of Grace in Greensboro. And we started. I'm happy to report today that we are about to start our 7th academic year. We have graduated 2 classes, and we're going to have 60 high-functioning kids with autism that walk through the doors this fall. And I'm also happy to report that our outcomes have been amazing. All but one of the kids has their driver's license. All but one of the kids is either continuing their education or they have a job. And I'm especially happy to report that my son, today was a working day, so he got up 3:45. He clocked in at FedEx in Kernersville at 4:15. Worked his shift, and he just texted me a little bit ago and said, Daddy, I'm going to go to some of the game stores, and I guess he's probably out there spending his paycheck. He's living his best life right now. And I don't tell you this to say that Rotary funded it all, because it didn't fund it all. I mean, it funded a lot. Rotary helped me get playground equipment. It helped me get software that we needed. Helped me get computers and iPads and things like that we needed. But more than anything, it let me know that I could make an impact. And at 50, I'm looking at places where I can make an impact that once I get off this rock will endure. And I know that my work through that will endure. I really try to be respectful of everybody's time, but I think I have time for one more story. I want to tell you about this young lady named Trinity. Trinity is, you guys probably know where Gibsonville is. Okay, so Trinity is from Gibsonville, born and raised there. Her educational opportunities weren't great. She was smart enough that she got herself into the International Baccalaureate program at Page High School. And once she got there, she fully immersed herself into the community at Page. And one of the things that she got involved with was something called the Pirate Pantry. The Pirate Pantry is a discrete place within the school where kids that have food insecurities and don't have enough clothes and shoes, they can discreetly go to this room, they can pack their book bag with food to take home, and they can get clothes so that they don't stand out. She fully immersed herself into that program and worked it for her 4 years. She also volunteered at a church daycare any chance that she got. Now I got to back up for a second and take you back to 2015. In 2015, I was president-elect of my club. My friend Dan Quinn, who I've already mentioned, was president. And we were very fortunate to get a sizable donation from a Rotarian named Alex Neely, who's since retired and moved to Florida. Well, Alex donated $50,000 to the club's Rotary Foundation. And he earmarked it for a scholarship. And like a lot of clubs, we had done a ton of the $500 and $1,000 scholarships. Well, I was on the board at the time, of course, leading up to my year as president, and I suggested to the board that not to stop doing what we had been doing, but with that $50,000, let's look at a different model. Let's play the long game. And what I convinced the board to do was to put that $50,000 in an endowment fund. And then, to double down on that, I said, youth is in our DNA, so let's take a certain percentage of our annual fundraiser and let's earmark that also for the scholarship endowment, which they agreed. And so we set a goal at that point in time to raise $250,000, because after talking to the financial guys with normal growth and continued donations from our fundraisers, that was enough to fund a sizable scholarship. And so we set out to do that. And I'm happy to report that by mid-2020, we'd reached $250,000 in the scholarship endowment fund. So then it was time to pick our first scholarship recipient. So we solicited applications from the 4 traditional Greensboro City schools. That's Page, Grimsley, Smith, and Dudley. We got those applications, and we immediately eliminated the kids with the 4.7s and 1400s on the SAT, because we knew they already were going to get money and had the capacity to have college taken care of. So what we focused on were kids with a heart for service that were the diamonds in the rough, that maybe hadn't had the opportunities up until that point. And so we whittled the application field down to 5. And we did interviews for the 5. The first young lady that walked in, her name's Michaela. She's from Smith High School. She crushed it. Like, she knocked our socks off. I mean, it was, I'm not sure I've ever met a more polished young person than this young lady. She was amazing. And after her interview, I was like, I mean, we can tear up the other applications. Like, I mean, we're done. There's no way anybody's going to be any better than her. Well, we always ask every applicant, what do you want to do? And do you have any other awards that you've either received or you're up for? Because we didn't want to double up and give a kid that already gotten a bunch of money our scholarship. Well, Michaela said that she wanted to work with big agriculture. So she wants to work with the cows and the horses. She doesn't want to be a vet. She wants to work in the development of big farming, which I found extraordinary. And given the amount of hamburgers I eat, necessary. So I liked it. I liked her, where her head was at. I tell my kids all the time, I want you to major in being able to get a job. Whatever you decide to do, you need to be able to get a job. And so Michaela's plan, I thought, was solid. She'd gotten accepted to NC State, and she was accepted to North Carolina A&T. Well, Michaela told us that she had no prospects for any other money other than loan money, and she was a finalist for a full ride to A&T. And so we said thank you to her. She went on her way. We interviewed the next three. The next three were okay. I mean, they were great kids. Didn't stack up to Michaela. Then Trinity walked in. Trinity, amazing as well. Like I said, huge heart for service, checked off all the boxes, certainly a worthy scholarship recipient. And for me, at that point, it was a coin toss. I had no idea who we were going to pick. So, and I think the rest of the board was in the same state of mind. Well, Judy Brumley, who is now the district youth services chair, she was our liaison with the kids. She checked her email right before we voted. She got an email from Michaela. Michaela said, I got home, checked my voicemail, I got notice that I won the scholarship from A&T. So her education was paid for. So at that point in time, it became clear. Trinity was our recipient. I got to make the coolest phone call I think I've ever been able to make. Picked up the phone, called Trinity, and told her she had just been awarded $40,000 to go to the school of her choice. She chose UNC. And the great thing about this story is that Trinity also qualified for a work study. So Trinity now has enough money to get her 4-year degree with no debt. And you guys at this point in time know how important that is. You know the statistics on student debt. That is something that I was directly involved in that will impact not only Trinity, but it's going to impact the entire world. And that happened through Rotary. That's your value proposition. That kind of thing happens every day in every town that has a Rotary Club. I tell people all the time, don't ask someone to join Rotary. People aren't joiners anymore. They're not. I mean, church membership is down, Scouts membership is down, you name it, all membership is down. But people will join you. Your friends will join you in doing good work. And that's what you ask. Join me. I'm working on X, Y, or Z. Come join me in making this happen. It just happens to be in a Rotary Club. I know we're getting ready to bump up on time. I'm asking clubs to do 3 things. There's 3 reasons to join Rotary. It's networking, fellowship, and service. All right, there's some tangential benefits, there's leadership development and that kind of stuff, but those are the 3 main reasons. I'm asking every club to address all 3 of those needs at least once a quarter. I talked to your board already, it sounds like you guys are doing that. All right, I want you to hold a fellowship event every quarter, a networking event every quarter, and guys, it is okay to talk about your businesses now. Rotary was started by 4 businessmen that wanted to help each other in business. For whatever reason, decades later, it became taboo. in Rotary. Well, that pendulum is swung back the other way. Rotary is getting back to its core. My mantra is back to basics. It's back to its core. Networking is okay. Support each other's businesses. Talk about each other's businesses. You guys all seem to like each other. I think you're doing fine in fellowship. And it seems like you're hitting home runs in terms of your service opportunities. Keep doing what you're doing as far as that goes. The other thing I'm asking you guys to do is try to get Triple Crown recognition. We've tried to make it a little bit easier and more streamlined. We took away the bequest piece because the statistics show that only 20% of people that say they're going to give money from their estate actually do. And it's impossible to track. So what we decided to do was change that problem. So it's still Paul Harris Fellow, 100% Paul Harris sustaining, and we want you to do $100 per capita to Polio Plus. You do that, you're a Triple Crown winner. And we want you to get that recognition. That's the two things I'm asking you to do. Other than that, I want you to be healthy. That's it. Focus on health. I'm going to close with what President Shaker Mehta has challenged us to do. That's everyone bring one. It starts back at the beginning of my talk with a simple ask. Join me at a meeting. Help me do what I'm doing. And that's it. Thank you guys. You've been great.